Hey guys,
Hello.
welcome to Trail Talk. Mary and I, as you can see, we're a little festive.
Pumpkin, Halloween.
Yeah, we thought pumpkin carving would be a lot more fun if we just added a little bling and a little decoration.
Flash.
Yeah.
Little flash here and there.
So we're gonna do it up big time
Got
today.
my hat on too.
Yeah.
Can't miss my hat.
Yeah. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, I'm going to run out and buy some pumpkins and do some carving, I understand there's a shortage of pumpkins here in town
Yes.
right now.
Yeah.
You might call around to some of the
maybe
stores.
Maybe a few might have some, but
right. Maybe try a Goodner's store or something like that. But here at the the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma, we have pumpkins. I got these pumpkins a few weeks ago, so
she thought ahead.
I planned ahead. And so we're going to do some pumpkin carving. Now, I want to go over some tools and things that we have.
I've never seen anyone so prepared for pumpkin carving as you are.
I kind of get
like
into
it.
this.
I
Yeah,
like it.
it's kind of a thing at my house. So you see, whenever you go to the store starting in September, you can see the kits, it's like pumpkin carving kits.
And there's usually an easy or a hard edition.
Right. And all the tools, every pumpkin carving tool in those kits works to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
They have the kind that have the big scoops, and it's like a spaghetti scoop, because whenever you see the inside of these pumpkins, you're going to think, that looks like spaghetti. In fact, I like to eat spaghetti squash. And that's what it looks like. It reminds me of spaghetti squash. So these scoopers are good for scooping out the guts, as I call them. They have these, what is this called? Serrated carving tools. They don't cut you. They're not sharp at all. This one is a little bit, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of
used.
Yeah, it's used. And so it bent because it's not like a super strong, but it does do a good job. And here's a smaller one that's just like, it has two different type of serrated blade on either side. Neither side is sharp. These are scrapers, and I mean, these work great. You can really get in there and scrape out everything. We'll be demonstrating all of these. I'm going to show you though. These are my personal tools, not from a kit. These knives right here are the piece de resistance when it comes to carving a pumpkin. They're serrated and they will not cut you, just like the green handled ones I showed you, but they are a thick blade. And so that blade, it does not bend. And I mean, they will cut through a pumpkin quickly. It's like a saw blade, and you can really do a lot of work. And especially for if you have a kiddo who wants to do this, this makes carving a lot easier than some of these thinner blades. These are a little more sharp. They're serrated.
The kit, didn't they?
These came from a kit, like the green handled ones, but they are really good if you're doing some detail work, or you're cutting something in a small a circle. These bigger ones are harder to cut in a good circle, but you can really go around because these blades are the serrated part is much closer together. These are good pokers. If you want, I've seen people do like constellations and things like that, or if you just want to make some holes in things, these little jobs, they're really good. And these are I've never done this. I've never been successful at the pumpkin carving where you carve, but you don't
take the orange, but leave the flesh.
Inside,
right?
You leave that. You don't cut all the way through and actually cut through, and you scrape off the orangey part on the outside, and then the glow from the whatever light you put inside it, the flesh just really glows. I've never done that, but this tool is supposed to be good for that. And Mary and I were talking earlier about they come with sheets of paper, and you can kind of put them on the round pumpkin, but it's just not, it's really not that easy.
Something flat on something round just never really works out.
Yeah, it's not great. So if you want to just be creative, I encourage you, just find
Pinterest is a great
Pinterest tool. Has tons of pumpkin carving ideas, and so we're just going to use some of those ideas today. I took the liberty to kind of get started because cleaning pumpkin guts out is not that interesting.
Process as well.
And I've got these disposable gloves I thought that, you know, sometimes kids aren't keen on just sticking their hands inside something.
Doesn't have the best texture.
Yeah, the feel of this pumpkin gut thing is, it's just not great. So one thing you want to look at when you're purchasing a pumpkin, if you got to take it out of the bin and set it on the ground and
So that
make
it doesn't
sure,
set.
yeah, make sure that it's going to set up. Kevin's this year, my husband's it would want to rock backwards. And so
It's a
we had
rocking
to,
chair.
yeah, we had to prop it up
Uh-huh.
because he carved it so that the stem was on the top, but it wouldn't set up properly. So I didn't do a very good job
Yeah, and
on
depending
that.
on your design too. Sometimes people want those that kind of lean.
Well,
You can
yeah.
have the uglier warded types, you know, so
Mhm.
depending, but yeah, definitely take it out and
Yeah.
lay it on the ground.
And I'm glad you said something about warts. This pumpkin has some ugly looking spots on it, but if you wanted to make a kind of scary looking face on here,
You could work that
yeah,
in.
you could work those in as some like little blemishes or wart looking things on the face. So they're not all going to be perfectly round. Sometimes they're dirty, and a wet paper towel will just
Clean
clean
it right
off
up.
any
Mhm.
dirt. So this one is cut from the bottom. I cut the bottom out. That one is cut on the top, and you can do it either way. From the bottom is a little bit easier because you can just pop that out, put your little candle or tea light or whatever you're going to put inside of it on that, and then set the whole pumpkin on top. So Scott, if you want to get to where they can kind of see what we're getting out of the inside here. So the inside of this is full of
Yumminess.
yeah, the guts, and look at all the seeds. Now I'm going to tell you, the pumpkins at home that we carved, I saved a bunch of the seeds and I roasted them, and they turned out pretty good. They were a little chewy, not quite as crispy as I had hoped.
Mm-hmm.
When you buy pepitas at the store,
Right.
they're the little green part,
Mhm.
and those little green things are actually inside that white part. But you can season them up and put some oil on them, and they turn out pretty good. So you can see inside this guy right here, there's some stringiness going on in there. There we go. The strings and stuff. I'm going to take this little scraper, and now you could use just anything that you had at home. Like I brought this tool. This is one of my kitchen utensils, but it's got that flat side on it, and then it also has this curved side, and it works pretty well for scraping.
A lot of the times we'll just use a big spoon.
Yeah. So
Sturdy enough spoon that won't bend
sturdy
on you.
enough. But I mean, get in there and dig around on the inside of this pumpkin and just really scrape all that stuff off the best you can. And it's just stringy. It might take the kids a minute to kind of get used to it. And honestly, if your kids are way squeamish of stuff like this, you could probably do all this preliminary part. Yeah. And then let them have at the carving part. Although with the gloves on, it's not as bad as whenever you have to touch it with your bare hands.
You don't get near the hands-on experience.
So while we're doing this part, since it's a little bit not interesting, I thought I'd tell you some things about pumpkins that maybe you're not aware of.
There were some interesting.
Yeah, a lot of interesting information about pumpkins. So first of all, pumpkins are squash. They're just a kind of a giant squash, I guess you could say. And I didn't know this, but they're native to North America. So that means, actually they are from the southern part of the United States and Mexico. That's where they are originally from. Now, obviously, people have taken the seeds and they're grown everywhere. The largest grower, I guess you could say producer would be a better word, pumpkins in the United States is in Illinois, and it's the Nestle company. They produce, or I guess
Like
the Libby's, but they own Libby's, and Libby's pumpkin is the best-selling pumpkin, and it's they grow 95%. Let me get this right. Illinois produces 95% of the processed pumpkin, the pumpkins that are going to be processed, into canned pumpkin, and Libby's makes 85%
My goodness.
of that. So yeah, they kind of got
They
the
kinda-
corner
Yeah, they kind of have that.
of the market.
don't
Yeah. But I'm a
they? Canned pumpkin.
yeah, I am. And I've actually never made anything with fresh pumpkin flesh. I've cooked a lot of squash,
Yeah,
but I've never cooked have you ever?
I've never cooked a real pumpkin. Either.
Yeah.
I always go with the canned pumpkin.
Yeah. Now I think you would just kind of cook it in the oven, bake it, and then you could make the flesh soft and then be able to
Eat that.
mash it,
Into
you
a
know,
mash. Yeah.
like mashed potatoes are. So I'm going to show you how the scraper works on this. This is the bottom of my pumpkin. I'm just kind of, and you can kind of dig into the flesh a little bit to make sure you get all of that stringiness off. But that little scraper, it just works really well right here. So I hope all of you watching are all doing okay. This crazy weather we've had makes it feel like we skipped Halloween and Thanksgiving,
Exactly right.
and maybe even Christmas, and shot straight to January. What a crazy couple of days we've had. A lot of people without power. So I hope that
Hopefully everyone's back to having power.
yeah, and able to watch us today. So I'm pretty well done here. How about you?
How's
it going?
Like another scoop or
A
two.
little bit more
I
to
got
go.
I got a lot of.
Yeah, I did. I took
Oh, that's
more
right.
out of
Yours
this
was
one
all
than
that
that
one.
one. Yeah, but I just kind of wanted to. I took about 2/3 of the guts out of this one. You can see that Mary's pile over there is quite a bit bigger, but she's got a lot of seeds in hers too. Now her seeds are a little dark, so they may have been too long in the pumpkin there. So
Okay,
I'm
I think I'm pretty well.
gonna take a minute and clean my gloves off just a little bit.
There's another seed.
So Mary,
Yes, sir.
even though pumpkins are native to the US and Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
China and India combined account for half of the world's pumpkins now.
That's a lot of pumpkins.
Yeah. So pumpkins are easy to grow. They can.
Don't you usually plant those in like summer months, like July?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So this time of the year, they're ready to go.
And honestly, you could, so that here's the other thing. Once you cut, okay, you can see it's not a very good circle. That's because I use those awesome knives. They're great for cutting. You just kind of have to lay it and then kind of turn it until you get it to the right,
Back to the right
spot there. Yeah, and it'll just kind of go in there whenever you get it. So I'm just going to set that back on there. And I'm going to take a marker. You can just take any marker and just make your design on your pumpkin.
We were trying to come up with one.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out what to do. The one I did for the one at my house was pretty fun, but the weird weather where it was like almost 90 last week and then it got super cold made my pumpkin's face like turn in. It looked like the toothless, I don't know what.
Toothless, headless horseman.
Yeah, the toothless headless horseman. That's funny. So I'm going to turn mine around. Well, I'm going to go like this so you can see. So you just kind of decide what you're going to put on yours. I'm going to use this little kind of warty looking side. Yeah. And I'm just going to make a big circle with a thing like that. And then I'm going to make another circle over here. Similar in size, yeah. And so I've got, you can't really tell it right now, but I'm going to have a guy with some kind of crazy eyes here. And see, all this is okay because I'm going to be cutting
Cutting
all
that
of that off. Yeah, so I'm going to kind of bring this around a little bit more and up like that. And I'll show you, see, I've got a mark on there that is not going to come off, and I'll show you how you can kind of fix that here in just a second. Then I'm going to make a triangle nose. I'm just going to make a big, big, big mouth here. With a couple of teeth. Okay, so, are you scared? He's pretty scary looking, isn't he? So there is what my guy is, my pumpkin. I for some reason I give like I animate everything. I make it like a
Male or female?
yeah, and you know whatever. I don't know why I do that. It's kind of an odd thing that I do, but anyway, when I was talking about pumpkins being easy to grow, they actually grow on every continent in the world except one. What do you think?
Yes.
Which one do you think they don't grow?
Antarctica.
You're
I
right.
think.
Mary is so smart. Antarctica, and of course it's too cold there. I don't know
Way
that
too
any kind of
cold.
vegetation really grows in Antarctica.
It'd be way too cold
Yeah,
because
yeah. Pumpkins
They
they need a little bit of
a little
warmth.
bit of warmth.
Mm-hmm. So, some interesting other things about pumpkins. Pumpkins are used a lot. Now I'm just going to take I've got the red handled serrated knife here, and I'm just going to start going in like. I'm kind of blocking what I'm doing here. See if I can go left-handed.
All right, we're gonna see.
Look
how
at that. That's how easy it is to cut with these things. I can do it left-handed. Now, you don't want to go, I laid that black one over there for you. You don't want to go too fast especially if you're making a circle, because you won't be able to keep your shape very well. But anyway, pumpkins have a lot of medicinal.
Yeah, which I didn't realize.
Oh, Mary, why don't you turn around so.
Oh, you want to see my? I was gonna just surprise
Ah,
everyone.
like at the hairdresser.
Yes. Your
When
final
they have
reveal.
they have your back to the
And
mirror.
Once
and
your
then-
hair's cut.
Yeah, and
that's
then
it.
yeah, when there's no going back,
That's
they
when
spin you
they
around.
exit the room and let you look.
Yeah. So anyway, they have a lot of medicinal purposes for bladder
There's
problems.
a lot for bladder.
Yeah, a lot for bladder problems, and a lot for I want to be sure I say this right. If you have worms,
Like tapeworms.
tapeworms, things like that, they evidently they really work on expelling tapeworms from your body. I'm sure it's because they're loaded with fiber. I mean, that's all this stuff is right here, the guts. It's just a fibrous flesh inside there. So anyway, it's also really good to feed dogs.
Pumpkin for dogs.
Pumpkin for dogs, yeah. I was going to be sure I didn't. Let's see. Veterinarians use it as for dogs and cats.
Does it rid the dogs and cats of their worms? too?
Yes, yeah. It's really good for helping with intestinal issues. I hope I'm not getting a little personal for anybody.
And
And
by no way
Right.
certified either. So
right. Native Americans have long used pumpkin in folk medicine. So it's a really useful. I need to take my bottom off so I can kind of pop this out.
I have one eye out.
Mine's not wanting to pop out. You kind of have to pop it forward because if you think about this, it's round. So the outside has more surface area than the inside. So it's easier if you pop it out the front. And then I can see, here's what happens if you don't clean it out good. You got some little hangers in there. Some little things that should have come out.
Cobwebs.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Could make it a creepy cobwebby looking eyeball. Anyway,
Not sure
you
many
just
people
go
have
in,
cobwebs in their
yeah,
eyeballs.
you
but-
just kind of go in there and just whack it off. Whittle that down some. And you can go back in with your scraper too to make it look a little bit better, but there's
Clean it
one
up a
eye.
little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of medicinal purposes. And of course, everyone associates pumpkins with the harvest season. You know, people start
Thanksgiving.
putting out pumpkins. And I mean, the fun thing about pumpkins, obviously, jack-o'-lanterns, this part, which we'll talk about more in here in a little bit, has a lot more to do with Halloween. But, you know, you can keep your pumpkins around. I like to start decorating for fall, like in
Mhm.
September,
Mhm.
because you can leave it out all the way through Thanksgiving, unless you're one of
Unless
those
you carve
people who puts the Christmas tree up early.
Or if you're like one of those types of people that leave your Christmas tree up all year round.
Oh yeah, that's true too. I have a friend named Mary who
She's
has
not
done
talking
that
about me
before.
at all. There's
My
lots of
mom made a Thanksgiving tree one year.
And I've heard of Halloween trees.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, anyway, the pumpkin is it's one of those kind of harvest time vegetable, or yeah, I guess it's a squash. It's a vegetable, root
Mhm.
vegetable. Anyway, so it's something you can decorate with for a long time. And they aren't just yellow and orange.
I like
They
the
are-
green ones.
The green ones, I think those are really
The white
cool.
ones are cool.
Yeah, the white ones. I always think those are, I don't know, kind of a little spooky
Mhm.
kind of feel to them. I like them. And of course, you know, then some people really decorate with those and make them look, when you have white, you can really make it look kind of fancy too, if you don't carve them up. So pumpkins are definitely, they're a seasonal fruit that people just, or vegetable that people just really enjoy. I mean, me
When you
included.
start to see pumpkins, you definitely know that the leaves are about to start changing color.
Right. Oh, and then all things pumpkin spice emerge,
Yes.
which is
both Edie and I's
oh,
favorite. We
Listen,
can't wait for that season.
I go a little nuts, honestly. And I'll tell you something that I did not realize till I was doing this research. Starbucks is credited with starting the pumpkin spice craze. In 2003, they introduced a pumpkin spice latte, and
Life has never been the same.
yeah, the
since.
rest is history. The rest is history. And man, you know, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember life before pumpkin spice.
Nor do I want to.
That was just, I mean, those were just years that I can say I'm glad they're past me.
Okay,
Let's
Here we
see,
go.
are you through?
I'm done.
Mary's pretty swift over there. Look at hers. Aw, I love it. Kind of some comma looking eyes there.
They're not quite the same size,
Yeah, mine are a little bit not
Uh,
offset.
and yeah, they're not quite centered either. But you know, it's a happy little pumpkin.
He's a happy pumpkin.
He's a happy pumpkin.
Now, I will tell you that this is work.
Yeah, it gives you some arms.
It's a little warm over
Maybe
here
not
in
have
the
to go
Chuck
body
Wagon
count
studio.
tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't ever go, but I was talking to about Miss Edie. I sleep every night.
My muscles are getting a workout
They're
today.
nice and pumped.
Yeah.
See, now you can go back in and trim it up, the pieces that you see hanging down.
True. So, one other thing, a couple more things about pumpkins. Have you guys ever seen a pumpkin chunking contest?
I'd like to take part in one.
So I've gone to a pumpkin festival. There's a church called South Lakes in Oklahoma City, and they have a trebuchet. And at their pumpkin festival, they have all these little pumpkins. And the trebuchet is kind of like a catapult. It's just has an extra moving part or two. Because there's a thing that kind of whips around
Oh,
as then it catapults those pumpkins, and they just fly, and then they just crash and explode. And it's so much fun to watch them do that. But that's like a whole thing. Those are big competitions, and people like try to produce pumpkins that can withstand,
The actual pressure and
Yeah,
fall of it.
yeah,
Are there ones that actually
I guess,
survive the
they,
fall?
well, a certain distance or something. Yeah. I mean,
Amazing.
yeah, I know. I thought that was kind of crazy. So they do, they have trebuchet, catapult, air cannons. I mean, I think that's pretty fun deal right there.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of my favorite things about pumpkins. But jack-o'-lanterns, which is what we're making.
Because it was just a pumpkin before, but once you carve it,
Yeah.
it becomes the jack-o'-lantern.
Jack-o'-lantern. And so there are some things that people have historically associated the jack-o'-lantern with. For instance, trick-or-treating, of course.
Of course.
Now I don't always think about it all like this, but there was a time when people really, oh man, mine
Lose
just
your
lost a
tooth.
tooth.
Uh-oh, tooth fairy.
Tooth fairy's gonna have to come. That's okay. Just one tooth. That makes him look a little crazier. He's kind of a hillbilly.
That's right. Comes from
Another state, not Oklahoma.
That's right.
So anyway, the folklore is that they represented the lost souls roaming the earth, which goes back to the whole Stingy Jack
Which I
story.
never heard before.
Had never heard this. This is a
It's a fairy tale type
folklore legend. Yeah, kind of legend thing that goes. A guy named Stingy Jack talked the devil into getting him something to drink, and then he turned the devil into a coin and put him in his pocket with a silver cross, so the devil couldn't escape. And so he made the devil promise not to bother him for a year, and he'd let him out. So the devil agreed. The devil comes back, and Stingy Jack, convinces the devil to climb up in a tree to get something for them.
I can't remember what it was, but yes, it was in a tree.
And then he carves a cross on the tree, and the devil can't come down.
For 10 years.
Yeah, for 10 years. So in the meantime, Stingy Jack dies, and God won't let such an unsavory character into heaven. So he makes him leave. Well, the devil can't do anything with him for 10 years. He promised he'd leave him alone. And so he gave Jack a light to carry around, and he's said to, roam the earth today with his scary light, and he put it inside a pumpkin shell. Actually, the story was he probably put it inside a turnip.
Right.
Because
Come to find out.
Yeah, when people first began making, they would call him Jack of the Lantern, and then they shortened it to Jack-o'-lantern. And it all goes back to the Stingy Jack story. People made jack-o'-lanterns out of turnips, which I told Mary, kudos to them, because carving a turnip would be so much harder than carving a pumpkin.
Difficult.
Can you imagine the joy they've had when they thought, look at this hollow
They
thing.
got a face or something
big, and look what we can do with it. Yeah. I'm sure that they were thrilled when they came over to America, because all this happened like in the 1800s. The timing of Halloween is associated with a few things. So, there's the All Saints Day, which I believe is November the 1st, the day after Halloween. And some people also associate it with the Guy Fawkes Day. Guy Fawkes led a revolution led by the Catholic Church to burn down Parliament in like 1600 or something. What was that? Oh, maybe it's down here on this one.
1605.
Okay, 1605. And in 1606, Guy Fawkes was captured because the king at the time was a Protestant, King James the First. And so Fawkes was arrested and hanged on November the 5th, 1606. And so they would make effigies of him, fake, like paper mache looking kind of things, and carry them around town, around London and places like that. So that's one idea of the whole,
Why they celebrate it.
yeah, why they celebrated. But I mean, 2,000 years ago,
That's a long time.
a long time ago, Celtic people kind of had some kind of religious practices of sorts, and they would, okay, have a little trouble making my puzzle piece fit here
Go
in the
back
bottom.
together.
Yeah. Where do you go, little puzzle piece? How do you go on?
But
Here we go.
there you go. Yep.
Okay.
There we
All
go.
right, now
Yay.
there's
You
my
saved
guy.
the tooth.
He's finally done. Yeah, I saved one tooth. So there's my jack-o'-lantern. Mary, our jacks look kind of alike, don't they?
Jack's.
They're
Mine
cute.
looks like he might be puking.
Yeah. You know what? I have seen people
Yep, where they do that.
where they do that. Yeah,
They
like,
have the guts coming out of their
uh-huh.
mouth.
Yeah, I think I'll do that with mine right here on the front. I'm gonna have some of that. Look at that.
Mine,
He ate too much candy. Kids, don't let this happen to you.
don't like,
Don't eat too much Halloween candy.
don't,
You might end up like this jack-o'-lantern. Don't be like eating
you only use a
jack-o'-lanterns.
tooth.
Yeah,
Use a
yeah.
tooth.
And you might just have one tooth left in your
That's
mouth.
They have to
Be like
carry
Mary's
pumpkin all the
jack-o'-lantern. Okay, so the whole trick-or-treating thing, this is kind of fun. This is kind of a fun thing to think about. So it was actually became a real tradition in the US, like a solid kind of thing in the 1950s.
So it hasn't really been around that
It
long.
hasn't. I
When you
was a
think
little-
about
yeah,
traditions.
I was a little bit surprised, but it started, okay, with the Guy Fawkes Day, and then there was a time even prior to that where people would send children out to ask for I guess it was poor people would go to wealthier
Wealthier
people's
neighborhoods
homes
and
and
homes.
ask, and they would give them little cakes they called soul, S-O-U-L
Yeah, here,
cakes.
right here.
And they would say prayers for their dead relatives. And that
Which
was
I'm
called,
sure at the time it wasn't unusual,
right,
but now
right, yeah.
for
and-
us thinking today, that just sounds.
Yeah, and so that was called souling. And then they started dressing up in a disguise, and so they called that guising. And in Scotland, that was in Scotland, and they would pledge, instead of promising to say a prayer, they would sing a song or tell a joke, do a little dance or a
song,
trick
uh-huh.
or something like that, and people would give them nuts, coins, and fruit, or one of those things.
Right.
Then when people left Europe and came here to the States, prior to us becoming the States, they brought this tradition with them. Of course, they discovered they didn't have to carve turnips or beets or
They were,
whatever,
yeah.
potatoes anymore.
had
They could carve pumpkins.
pumpkins.
And they would dress up. Well, the prank part, the trick part, kind of got carried away in the 1920s and 1930s, and the gangs would get together and they would just tear things up and do real mean things.
Right.
And then when World War II happened, there was a sugar shortage, and so there was not enough to make extra treats, and so trick-or-treating just went by the wayside. And then baby boomers, they came along, and by the early 50s, they were all old enough to dress up and go trick-or-treating, and that's whenever it kind of started.
As we
Now,
now know it.
Mary and I were talking about trick-or-treating or tricking and things like that when we were kids, and
Things we
we
did.
knew people who did mean things, but
It wasn't us.
it was never Mary and I participated. I mean, it was a little shocking really to think about some of the things that
That we were accused of?
Yeah. Mom, keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the history of trick-or-treating.
Amazingly
The
so.
jack-o'-lantern,
Our jack-o'-lanterns.
our jack-o'-lanterns, how to do that, a little bit of information about squash, And I hope that you have enjoyed our
Presentation.
presentation today.
Hopefully you guys have your pumpkins so that you can get to carving.
Yes, yes,
'Cause Halloween is
absolutely.
Saturday.
Yeah. Now there's only one way to end a pumpkin carving session like this.
How's that? We're not eating this stuff, are we?
Oh, we're not eating that stuff.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but we're eating pumpkin pie.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Don't you guys wish
little
you
homemade
had
pumpkin pie
some here with us? Ooh, even
yeah,
whipped cream.
little topping here. Don't let me squirt you. I'll get a little carried away.
All right.
So
Well,
yeah, we'll say happy
Happy
trails
trails.
on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Happy
Happy
trails.
trails. Mmm.